Have you ever felt as though life's challenges pile up faster than you can handle, threatening to erode your sense of happiness? Stress, setbacks, and uncertainty can push even the strongest among us into discouragement. Yet Stoicism offers a lifeline, a way to find joy and peace regardless of external circumstances. In this guide, we'll explore 10 essential Stoic lessons on how to be happy even when life gets tough, showing you how ancient wisdom can foster genuine contentment in our modern, often chaotic world. If you find these insights helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, we can keep delving into practical philosophy that makes everyday life a bit more serene. Now, let's begin. Lesson 1. Base your happiness on inner virtues, not outer success. A cornerstone of Stoic thought is that happiness should never rely solely on external accomplishments. While career goals, social accolades, and financial milestones are pleasant, making them the source of your contentment leaves you vulnerable. When a job is lost or a project fails, your happiness can crumble. Instead, Stoicism teaches that real fulfillment comes from aligning your actions with internal virtues: wisdom, kindness, courage, and justice. Imagine going through a rough patch. You've been passed over for a promotion at work, your relationship is in a rocky phase, and finances are tight. You might feel your self-worth eroding. A Stoic approach, however, flips the perspective. It encourages you to evaluate how well you're living by your core principles each day. Were you honest in your dealings? Did you show compassion where possible? Did you practice self-control instead of impulsive anger? By ticking yes to these questions, you confirm that you're acting in accordance with virtue, which forms the bedrock of a more durable happiness. Epictetus frequently reminded students that external outcomes are often beyond our direct control. Thus, pinning your self-esteem on them is a recipe for frustration. By centering on virtue, you set standards that you can meet consistently, no matter the volatility around you. Whether the market crashes or you face unexpected personal losses, you still have the power to behave nobly, and in that agency, you find satisfaction. In practical terms, set personal, virtue-based goals that emphasize character over outcomes. Maybe aim to perform a small act of kindness daily, or vow to speak truthfully in challenging situations. Each evening, reflect on how well you upheld these internal goals, celebrating small victories. Over time, you'll sense a stable undercurrent of happiness that isn't rocked by a boss's criticism or an unanticipated bill. This shift from chasing approval or success to cultivating virtue instills a deep resilience. You recognize that while the world may be unpredictable, your moral commitments are firmly within your control. When life gets tough, perhaps you lose an important client or face an unkind remark. Remind yourself, I can't command external events, but I can command how I respond. By ensuring that your response upholds integrity and compassion, you remain aligned with your deeper purpose. That alignment generates a sense of peace, even in adversity, because you see every challenge as an avenue to practice your virtues rather than a personal defeat. This perspective not only lightens emotional burdens, but also nurtures authentic happiness, rooted in character rather than in the fleeting ups and downs of life. In essence, a Stoic path to happiness embraces the conviction that true well-being is internal, anchored in living by principles rather than chasing external triumphs. When external storms arise, your virtue remains your port in the tempest. The more you invest in cultivating integrity, courage, and empathy, the sturdier and more joyful you become, no matter what life throws at you. Lesson 2. Separate discomfort from suffering by rewriting your narrative. When life grows challenging, we often blend pain and discomfort into a narrative of personal catastrophe. A Stoic approach encourages you to distinguish between the raw discomfort of a situation and the suffering you impose by layering negative stories upon it. This is how you maintain happiness even when setbacks arise, by rewriting the internal script that amplifies your distress. Picture yourself facing an unexpected expense, a car repair that blows your monthly budget. The immediate feeling is stress. How will I afford this? The negative narrative might balloon into a story of failure or unfairness, stoking anger or despair. Yet from a Stoic viewpoint, the event is just that, a car repair bill. Your mind's interpretation, "I'm ruined," or "this always happens to me," is what deepens the suffering. Marcus Aurelius advised us to observe each difficulty clearly without magnifying it through emotional distortions. Practical Stoic exercises can help you separate raw discomfort from the story you tell yourself. For instance, if you're overwhelmed by a demanding project at work, list the actual facts, a strict deadline, the nature of the tasks, and your available time. Avoid adding emotional labels like impossible, unfair, or disastrous. By viewing facts plainly, you ease the mental burden of catastrophic thinking. This clarity also helps you strategize effectively, perhaps negotiating a deadline extension or seeking a colleague's support. Another method is daily reflection. Each evening, recall a stressful incident from the day. Maybe you had a tense exchange with a neighbor or discovered a long queue at the grocery store. Identify the raw discomfort, the wait, the conversation, the unexpected time spent. Then pinpoint the layers of suffering you added, such as, "They're so inconsiderate," or "My day is ruined." Acknowledge that these interpretations, not the event itself, triggered your deeper unhappiness. Over time, this practice trains you to sense the moment you begin weaving negative storytelling. Epictetus famously taught that while you can't always prevent external misfortunes, you can manage your interpretations. By rewriting your narrative, you maintain mental freedom. That freedom is the cornerstone of Stoic happiness. You're not at the mercy of random events, but in command of how you see them. Even physical pain can be softened when you label it accurately rather than layering catastrophic thinking. A headache remains a headache, not a cosmic punishment. A relational conflict is one disagreement, not the downfall of your entire social life. This approach doesn't ignore reality. It addresses it more efficiently by eliminating drama. You acknowledge hardships, financial strains, health issues, or personal losses, but remove the emotional inflation. Instead of "I'll never recover," you think, "I'll adapt step by step." Instead of "they ruin my entire week," you calmly decide how to resolve or let go. As a result, you discover a measure of peace in even the toughest circumstances, seeing them as problems to solve rather than personal condemnations. Adopting this Stoic distinction between discomfort and the stories we create fosters a resilient, calm perspective. When life hits hard, you remain anchored in what's real rather than drowning in self-generated turmoil. The outcome is an unshakable kind of happiness, arising not from naive positivity, but from the wisdom of seeing events for what they are, and nothing more. Lesson 3. Build emotional distance through mindful observation. When life feels overwhelming, emotions can run rampant, especially anger, fear, or sorrow. Stoics recommend developing an observer's mindset, where you note your feelings without drowning in them. This technique is not emotional suppression. Rather, it's about creating a slight distance so you can manage intense feelings more constructively. By observing your emotions as passing phenomena, you safeguard your happiness from being hijacked by fleeting negativity. Imagine a scenario where your supervisor criticizes you harshly in a team meeting, or your partner snaps at you unexpectedly. The surge of adrenaline and frustration is real. Stoicism says, pause, label the emotion. See it as a wave in your mind's ocean. Instead of identifying with "I am angry," you adopt "I am experiencing anger." This language shift fosters perspective. Epictetus would encourage you to ask, is this feeling truly beneficial, or is it distorting my judgment? That moment of questioning acts as a mental checkpoint, preventing emotional meltdown. Mindful observation also extends to daily stressors like crowded commutes or unexpected changes in plans. You sense frustration creeping in, lack of control, or time wasted. But by adopting the third-person viewpoint, you might silently think, I notice frustration arising because traffic is slower than usual. This act of noticing disarms the assumption that your frustration is an imperative force you must obey. You discover that frustration is a transient state, not a permanent trait. Over time, such detached observation erodes the intensity of negative feelings. A practical step is to incorporate short reflection periods, such as journaling in the evening. Record any spikes in emotion, describing them factually. For example, felt deep irritation at 3 p.m. when colleague changed project specs last minute. Then add, realize the irritation is about wanting more control. Next time, I will calmly discuss boundaries rather than brood. This method clarifies how swiftly emotions come and go, underscoring their impermanence. Repeatedly verifying that your strong feelings dissolve helps you remain hopeful and balanced when future tensions arise. Another advantage is that emotional distance promotes rational problem solving. When you don't conflate your identity with the emotion, you can see solutions more clearly. If you're disappointed about a canceled trip, you can pivot to new plans or use the free time productively rather than staying sulky. Similarly, in personal conflicts, the observer stance lets you reason about what's best for all parties, skipping rash outbursts that sabotage both your peace and the relationship. This Stoic tactic of mindful observation is also a gateway to deeper self-awareness. You learn which triggers repeatedly inflame certain emotions, opening avenues to address root causes. Perhaps repeated tardiness by a friend always sets you off. Then you realize it stems from an old feeling of being undervalued. Identifying that emotional pattern enables more effective boundary setting or communication. Over time, self-awareness blossoms into self-acceptance, further stabilizing your internal happiness. Ultimately, building emotional distance through mindful observation doesn't mean you never feel negative emotions. It means you engage with them in a measured, stoic way, recognizing their presence, reflecting on their cause, and either acting with calm or letting them pass. This approach safeguards your emotional equilibrium, ensuring that even in life's storms, your contentment remains anchored and unthreatened. Lesson 4. Practice voluntary discomfort to reduce dependency on comfort. When life becomes tough, financial strains, personal disappointments, or unforeseen obstacles, losing your usual comforts can magnify stress and frustration. A Stoic approach to happiness involves training yourself to handle discomfort gracefully, thereby cutting the link between external comforts and inner peace. By periodically stepping out of your comfort zone on purpose, you realize you can endure more than you thought, diminishing your fear of life's tougher moments. Take, for example, the voluntary practice of intermittent fasting or skipping a daily luxury like fancy coffee. In modern life, we've grown accustomed to conveniences, fast Wi-Fi, climate-controlled rooms, constant food variety, that any disruption feels catastrophic. Stoicism teaches that small, self-imposed hardships build resilience. Seneca wrote about occasionally dressing in rough clothes or eating plain meals to remind himself that nature's needs are small. After such exercises, the everyday comforts you do have become blessings rather than necessities. Consider how you might handle a job setback or a broken appliance. If you've never forced yourself to adapt to simpler living, such as cooking basic meals without takeout, any forced frugality can be devastating. But if you've practiced living on less or turning off your phone for a day, you gain confidence that not having immediate comfort is survivable. This fosters a balanced perspective. If a crisis hits, I can manage. That knowledge soothes the anxiety that creeps in when adversity strips away convenience. Voluntary discomfort also recalibrates your sense of gratitude. Suppose you try sleeping on the floor for a night or wearing simpler clothes for a week. While these might seem trivial, the effect on your mindset is profound. You learn that the plush bed and stylish wardrobe are not absolute requirements for happiness, they're bonuses. Once you return to normal comforts, you appreciate them more deeply rather than taking them for granted. This everyday gratitude forms a protective layer against disappointment when life's tough phases remove certain comforts altogether. Moreover, Stoic voluntary discomfort extends to psychological spaces, like spending time offline or alone in silence. If you practice solitude, say, taking a weekend to unplug from social media and constant chatter, you realize you don't perish from lack of digital noise. In fact, you might find clarity and renewal. So if one day you find yourself isolated, maybe a relationship ends or you relocate to a new city, you won't be undone by loneliness. Instead, you have the mental muscle to adapt, maintaining happiness in minimal social engagement. By periodically challenging yourself with small hardships, you steadily reduce your dependence on external comfort for emotional well-being. Over time, this Stoic training cultivates a sturdy peace that endures even when life gets harsh. You sense that your happiness doesn't hinge on the presence of fancy meals, constant entertainment, or social validation. Rather, it resides in your capacity to adapt and find meaning regardless of the frills. When actual adversity strikes, you're not dismayed by the absence of comfort. You treat it as a test you're already prepared for, another day to demonstrate your resilience and uphold your inner contentment. Lesson 5. Practice self-compassion without excuses. Life can be unrelentingly harsh, and it's easy to turn that harshness inward, berating yourself for every perceived shortcoming. Stoicism sometimes gets misconstrued as a call for rigid self-criticism, but in reality, it emphasizes a balance, self-compassion that acknowledges mistakes without resorting to endless excuses. This approach frees you from guilt's grip while ensuring you remain accountable, paving the way for genuine happiness even under strain. Consider you failed an exam, lost a job, or ended a relationship on bad terms. A typical reaction might be to swing between self-blame and justifications. I'm worthless, or I only failed because the test was unfair. Both extremes hinder growth. Stoicism recommends you face the truth. If you lack preparation, accept that fact. But also don't exaggerate it into a statement of your unworthiness. You're simply a person who encountered a setback. This measured perspective fosters emotional recovery and constructive learning. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of focusing on solutions rather than wallowing in self-accusation. You might reflect, I didn't pass because I didn't study effectively. Now I'll revise my method or seek help. The self-compassion piece means you're kind to yourself about the error, recognizing you're human, yet you don't dodge responsibility. This balance guides you to correct course gracefully, without falling into a pit of despair or denial. In relationships, self-compassion similarly transforms blame into introspection. If a friend points out that you've been distant or snappish, you might initially feel shame or anger. The Stoic approach is to pause, evaluate if they have a point, and if so, address it without punishing yourself. Apologize if needed, plan how to be more attentive or respectful, then move on. By not condemning yourself as irredeemably flawed, you preserve your self-esteem and the positive aspects of the bond. One practical technique for building this habit is the compassionate reflection. Each night, briefly review any regrets or mistakes from the day. Note them in a journal. I snapped at a colleague, or I skipped my workout. Acknowledge the issue calmly. Ask what triggers led to it, and decide on a small step for improvement, like trying a breathing exercise before responding next time. Then close that entry with a reminder. I'm allowed to err, but I commit to do better. This method fosters accountability while reinforcing that your mistakes don't negate your worth. The result is resilience. When life is tough, work stress, financial crunches, or family conflicts, you won't crumble under self-reproach. Instead, you treat setbacks as normal parts of growth. Stoic self-compassion is not a free pass to repeat negative patterns. It's a measured acceptance that you're inherently capable of better choices. Over time, this mindset propels you forward, fueling calm confidence rather than self-loathing. Freed from the burdens of guilt and incessant excuses, you find it easier to remain happy, even in adversity, knowing you can adapt, learn, and move on with dignity. Lesson 6. Engage in continuous learning, regardless of circumstances. When life gets tough, job instability, health challenges, or personal disappointments, one natural reaction is to stagnate, shutting down any pursuit of growth until conditions improve. Stoicism suggests the opposite, that constant learning is crucial not only for self-improvement, but also for maintaining a sense of purpose and happiness during difficult times. Instead of waiting for ideal circumstances, you embrace the Stoic principle that every situation, no matter how grim, can teach you something new. Consider you're facing a bleak period of unemployment. The typical approach might be to dwell on rejections and put personal development on hold, waiting for better times. A Stoic mindset sees this as precisely the moment to sharpen your skills or study a new field. By dedicating daily time to online courses, reading, or networking, you transform despair into proactive education. This not only boosts your resume, but also ignites a positive mental framework. I'm learning, I'm evolving. That counteracts anxiety. Similarly, if a relationship sours or ends, it can be tempting to brood in heartbreak. Yet Stoicism nudges you to ask, what can I learn about communication, empathy, or boundaries from this experience? Each emotional blow is reframed as a lesson in how you relate to others and to yourself. Marcus Aurelius often advised viewing personal trials as a school for character, urging us to glean wisdom even from betrayal or loss. You might discover a need to refine your listening skills or reevaluate the traits you look for in a partner. This commitment to continuous learning also extends to smaller, daily experiences. If a coworker's comment irks you or a plan goes awry, you might pause and think, where's the nugget of insight here? Perhaps you realize you need better time management or more patience. The Stoic perspective transforms each misstep into a mini lesson, fueling your daily improvement. Over time, these tiny increments of learning accumulate into robust personal growth. Moreover, focusing on learning fosters a humility that guards against cynicism. You accept that you don't have all the answers, leaving room for new ideas even in adversity. Epictetus urged students to approach life with a beginner's mind, always open to fresh perspectives. So even when circumstances are grim, like dealing with a difficult boss or a chaotic living situation, your priority remains. What skills or virtues can I develop here? This question shifts your focus from helplessness to agency. Practically, you can implement this principle by setting monthly or weekly learning goals. Perhaps you commit to reading 2 books, mastering a software tool, or practicing a new hobby. Even if life's storms persist, these goals provide a stabilizing anchor, reminding you that no outside hardship can bar you from intellectual or personal progress. The sense of forward momentum and curiosity helps preserve your happiness, as you see that no crisis can truly stifle your capacity to grow. In the end, engaging in continuous learning, regardless of circumstances, exemplifies Stoic tenacity. It ensures that tough times don't freeze your development or steal your sense of purpose. Instead, every challenge becomes a catalyst for learning, a reason to refine your knowledge, skills, or emotional intelligence. This unwavering commitment to personal evolution not only sustains happiness, but also prepares you to emerge from hardships stronger and wiser than before. Lesson 7. Surround yourself with supportive influences. Stoicism emphasizes individual responsibility for one's emotions, but it doesn't advocate isolation. When life grows rough, having the right people around can sustain your happiness. The Stoic approach to relationships is purposeful. You align with those who encourage virtue, lift your spirit, and provide counsel in adversity. By cultivating supportive influences, friends, mentors, or community groups, you bolster resilience and inoculate yourself against despair. Imagine struggling with a major setback, a business failing, or a personal goal unraveling. If your immediate circle is largely critical or indifferent, you might internalize negativity and lose hope. Conversely, if you have a friend who consistently reminds you of your strengths, a colleague who shares constructive advice, or a community forum where you can learn from others' experiences, your perspective shifts. Seneca highlighted the value of companionship in adversity. It's easier to remain stoic when you know you're not alone in the fight. Stoic philosophers wrote about seeking friends who embody virtues you admire. Instead of collecting acquaintances based on convenience or fleeting interests, carefully choose people who encourage wisdom, kindness, or perseverance. Over time, their example and moral support become a safety net that cushions life's blows. If, for instance, you're about to give up on a creative project, a supportive friend might gently push you to keep going or offer a fresh solution you hadn't considered. Such relationships also serve as mirrors, reflecting your progress. Sometimes, you might not realize how far you've grown until someone close to you points it out. This recognition can spark gratitude and contentment even amid challenges. Epictetus would say that another's unbiased view can help you see beyond your emotional turbulence, guiding you back to rational calm. They can also lovingly call out self-destructive habits, ensuring you don't sink into complacency or negative spirals. Additionally, supportive influences aren't limited to personal friends or family. You might find camaraderie in online forums dedicated to stoicism or self-improvement, where people share struggles and solutions. Engaging with like-minded individuals fosters a sense of belonging and normalizes the hurdles you face. You learn that your problems aren't unique, that many have triumphed over similar obstacles, which can be profoundly reassuring. Be cautious, though, about conflating supportive influences with enablers. A true friend or mentor, guided by Stoic ideals, will challenge you to grow when you drift off track. They won't simply comfort you in negativity, but rather push you to realign with your principles. This means that genuine support sometimes involves tough love or constructive criticism, which you receive more openly because you trust their intentions. By surrounding yourself with people or communities that uplift rather than drain, you cultivate a robust emotional foundation. In tough times, they help you recall your strengths, reflect on solutions, or at least offer a compassionate ear. Over time, these relationships form a bulwark that stops adversity from robbing you of happiness. You stand fortified by shared wisdom, confident that no personal struggle or external crisis can truly isolate you. The synergy of Stoic self-reliance and community support becomes an unstoppable combination for enduring contentment. Lesson 8. Embrace challenge as a driver of creativity. When life becomes challenging, it's common to feel cornered or stuck, as if adversity blocks the path to happiness. However, Stoicism suggests a different lens. Adversity can be a crucible for creativity, pushing you to think innovatively and find new solutions. By seeing tough times as opportunities rather than obstacles, you can maintain a sense of joy rooted in progress and possibility. Picture a period where your finances are strained, forcing you to cut back on luxuries. Instead of dwelling on the discomfort, a Stoic approach sees it as a chance to rethink your resources creatively. You might learn to cook affordable, wholesome meals or transform old items into practical tools, discovering talents you never explored. Marcus Aurelius believed that every impediment can fuel inventive ways to adapt and thrive. This shift from complaining about limitations to utilizing them for clever solutions invigorates your day-to-day mindset. Similarly, consider a professional setback, such as losing a big client or facing job instability. Rather than languishing in despair, embrace the challenge. Brainstorm fresh strategies, experiment with new marketing angles, or partner with different networks. The adversity triggers a creativity that a comfortable situation rarely demands. Epictetus observed that necessity often awakens dormant abilities. When comfort is stripped away, you're compelled to innovate. This impetus doesn't just solve immediate problems. It often reveals new passions or methods that can redefine your future path. Practically, adopting this perspective involves reevaluating each struggle. What can I learn? What new method can I try? What skill do I need to develop? In relationships, if frequent arguments surface, you might explore alternative communication styles, maybe nonviolent communication or joint mindfulness practices. The challenge fosters a creative approach to conflict resolution. Over time, you realize that adversity consistently nudges you to refine skills you didn't know you needed, leading to personal enrichment that surpasses the difficulties. Additionally, creativity offers emotional relief. A tough situation can feel oppressive, but the act of brainstorming or tinkering with solutions injects a sense of control and curiosity. Instead of brooding, you get excited about the puzzle in front of you. This energy fosters a subtle joy, knowing you're not powerless, but actively shaping your responses. Stoicism frames this empowerment as essential to contentment. Once you see yourself as an agent, not a victim, a spark of happiness grows even amid the pressure. That said, fostering creative responses to adversity does take some discipline. In low moments, you might be tempted to wallow, complaining that solutions are scarce. A Stoic approach counters that negativity by urging you to start small. Try a novel technique for just one aspect of the problem. If it partially works, adapt further. This iterative process is not about conjuring a perfect fix immediately. It's about discovering incremental, imaginative steps that lighten your load. Ultimately, embracing challenge as a driver of creativity doesn't trivialize real hardships, but it does break the stranglehold of despair. You realize that obstacles can be catalysts for invention and growth, thereby preserving a baseline of happiness or at least hopeful engagement with life. This aligns perfectly with Stoic ideals. Adversity doesn't crush you. It refines your resourcefulness and deepens your appreciation for every victory, however modest. Lesson 9. Utilize mindful breathing for emotional reset. When life's pressures mount, deadlines loom, conflicts brew, or personal losses strike, your emotional state can deteriorate rapidly. A simple but powerful Stoic technique is mindful breathing, which gives you a quick emotional reset whenever you feel overwhelmed or unhappy. Far from a modern fad, controlled breathing aligns with ancient Stoic practices of self-regulation, providing an anchor for your mind in stormy times. Imagine you're about to confront a family dispute or walk into an anxiety-inducing job interview. Your heart races, and a wave of apprehension tightens your chest. Traditional wisdom might say calm down, but Stoicism goes further, suggesting a brief, deliberate focus on the breath. You breathe in slowly through your nose, hold for a couple of seconds, and exhale gently through your mouth, repeating this a few times. This purposeful pattern interrupts the adrenaline surge, letting reason reclaim the helm from runaway nerves. Seneca discussed the synergy between body and mind, highlighting that controlling physical manifestations of stress can refocus your mental state. Mindful breathing does precisely that. Each deliberate breath acts like a micropause, a moment to remind yourself you are not your fear or anger. Instead, you're an observer capable of guiding your own response. The shift is subtle but profound. Your mind goes from frantic fight or flight to calm, let's see clearly. In practical day-to-day usage, you could schedule short breathing breaks. For instance, every hour or two, pause for 30 seconds of deep, conscious inhalations and exhalations. These micro breaks keep your stress in check and preserve a baseline of calm, even if you're juggling multiple responsibilities. They also train your body to enter a relaxed state more quickly whenever tension spikes unexpectedly. Beyond immediate anxiety relief, mindful breathing also fosters greater self-awareness. As you master the technique, you become more adept at noticing the onset of frustration or sadness. Often, these emotions first manifest physically: tight shoulders, a fluttery stomach, or shallow breathing. Once recognized, you can intercept them early, employing a series of steady breaths to remain balanced rather than letting the emotion escalate. Epictetus would call this an exercise in prohairesis, or volition, where you actively choose calm over meltdown. Mindful breathing also pairs well with other Stoic tools. For instance, if someone's rude comment or a minor mishap threatens your mood, you might take a few slow breaths while internally reminding yourself of your core values: resilience, compassion, integrity. This combination dissolves the initial sting and reaffirms your deeper commitment to acting with virtue, not impulsive anger or despair. Over time, these mini resets become second nature, making you an unflappable presence when crises arise. In essence, mindful breathing is a Stoic hack for emotional regulation, offering a swift, accessible way to maintain happiness and composure even when life feels tough. It underscores the principle that while external events might be chaotic, your inner state remains yours to command. By harnessing breath as a bridge between body and mind, You place a stabilizing force at the center of your day, a simple, effective tool to stay grounded, peaceful, and ready to face challenges head-on. Lesson 10. Align with a higher purpose to sustain joy. The culminating lesson for preserving happiness, even in adversity, is to align with a purpose larger than yourself. When your life is anchored in meaningful objectives, such as personal growth, contributing to society, or a creative endeavor, the inevitable storms of existence lose much of their power to derail you. Stoicism consistently reminds us that a guiding mission infuses life with direction, overshadowing the ups and downs of immediate circumstances. Picture someone who devotes their free time to environmental activism or mentors at-risk youth. Although they might face setbacks like financial strain, heartbreak, or professional disappointment, their overarching commitment serves as a steady compass. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of remembering that you're part of a broader cosmic fabric. By viewing your role in that grand tapestry, supporting a cause, raising kind children, creating valuable art, you realize that no single misfortune can define you or nullify your life's significance. In day-to-day practice, begin by clarifying your deeper aims. Maybe you desire to advocate mental health awareness or to perfect your craft in a chosen field. Write these goals in a personal manifesto, so you can refer back to them whenever you feel knocked off balance. This reflection cements your sense of purpose, reminding you that even if your car breaks down or a personal relationship falters, your mission remains. Instead of being submerged by temporary disappointments, you keep moving forward along this purposeful path. A higher purpose also reframes adversity as part of the journey. If you face a financial setback, you interpret it as a chance to refine your resourcefulness, which might ultimately help you in your mission. Or, if you fall ill, you learn patience and empathy, qualities that enrich your future interactions. Rather than seeing life's challenges as arbitrary punishments, you see them as chapters in a broader narrative of growth and contribution. Epictetus championed the view that our experiences, pleasant or painful, are raw materials for honing virtue and thereby reinforcing our greater calling. Moreover, a sense of purpose guards you from the trap of comparing yourself to others or measuring success by fleeting standards. If your mission is to write a book that will help people, the latest social trends or superficial criticisms from acquaintances matter less. You remain focused on how your writing can serve your readers, not on petty popularity metrics. This unwavering focus not only amplifies your productivity, but also fosters deep contentment because your yardstick for achievement is profoundly personal and principled. Finally, aligning with a higher purpose cultivates a humble resilience. You see yourself as part of something bigger, whether that's the natural world, your community, or a legacy you hope to leave. Life's misfortunes can slow you down, but rarely deter you completely. Each challenge then becomes a test of commitment, an invitation to reaffirm why you do what you do. In that reaffirmation, you find renewed strength and a happiness that stands firm against life's chaos. Even when life hits hard, through losses, obstacles, or emotional turmoil, you can maintain a sturdy, enduring happiness by integrating Stoic principles into your day-to-day mindset. From grounding your worth in inner virtues to rewriting negative narratives, from harnessing mindful breathing to serving a higher purpose, these 10 lessons offer a blueprint for genuine contentment under adversity. If these insights resonate with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support encourages us to keep exploring timeless wisdom for a richer, more resilient life. Embrace these Stoic practices and discover that no matter the turmoil, happiness can flourish as a steady flame within you, lighting the path even in the darkest moments.